Hi, Isaiah. It's Dr. McManus. We had a 7 o'clock appointment. I had to switch computers in which to send you the link. And so I sent you the link from my Pastor K.O. McManus email. And I've been waiting 17 minutes. I'm assuming you're not going to come online. So I'm just going to go ahead and record this and I will send you the link for the review. Looks like you're a D-Man student. So I am... Sorry. I'm just so this would have been my first time meeting you, but okay. So I'm gonna share my screen and look at your paper. So I know you can see this in the recording here. So let's just look at it. So this should be an exegesis, or you say interpretation of Psalm 30. I'm gonna make it big enough so that you can see it on here. First of all, I don't know, I have 2 doctorates. So my first one is academic doctorate, and my second one is a professional doctorate, which is the D-Man. The D-Man is a professional doctorate. There are just a couple of issues just right off the bat. Is number one, where is your title page? So you're using Turabian / Chicago is all the same. You should have a title page. That's number one. This is a 6-page paper. You should have a title page. You are using different fonts on your paper. You cannot do that. So you're going to have to produce your final project. You have to remember these things. So like your heading that you have at the very top here, I can tell you this is like Calibri or something. I'm going to click on it. Let me look. It's exactly, it's Calibri. See, I already know what it is. You cannot do that. So you do not put a header on your paper. The only thing that would go here would be the page number. The second thing is this header. This right here would go on a title page, not right here. So you have to remember that, right? Okay, so don't do this. All right, the next thing is on this paper is you need an introduction. Where's your introduction? You didn't send me the assignment for this paper, but just basic writing is that you would have your introduction. They look for the same thing. You need your thesis statement. What is your claim? What are you doing? You begin off with this information directly that you're talking about Psalms 30. You did your footnotes incorrectly. I mean, you okay? So so the first thing is I put here, where's your introduction? Where's your thesis statement? The second thing I want you to look at is you did your footnote incorrectly. This is not right, right? This is completely wrong. So you're gonna have to look in your Turabian so that you'll know how to do this. So the way it's supposed to be is, but this is equally, and I put here in red, you don't say but this. You would have to say this is. You can't put but in front of it, okay? And then here for after Thanksgiving, you don't put, this is what you call an in-text citation or what we call a parenthetical citation. You don't do this. You do one or the other. You can't do in-text citation and a footnote. They're 2 different citation styles. And again, we are working with Chicago to Arabia. I'm trying to check to see whether you are online. I don't think so. I'm gonna do a quick stop share to see whether you're here. No, you're not. Okay, so it's 7:20, so I'm just assuming you're not coming online. Okay. So remember this, you cannot do this. This is in-text citation. You are using only a footnote. So I'm gonna highlight it. I have it highlighted in yellow. I'm gonna highlight it. I'm gonna put it up here as a comment for you. You cannot have a parenthetical citation and a footnote. They are 2 different citation styles. Okay. All right. The second thing is, all right, Psalms 30 flows from the wonderful acts of God. This speaks of God's anger and merciful favor. Okay, you would need a comma here. And finally, peaks at the mountaintop with a transformation from sorrow to praise and dance. Then use a semicolon. Semicolons are only used, they're not used much at all in writing, okay? So you cannot use a semicolon here. So you would stick with your commas, okay? So you have to be careful, little small things like this, because you are, working on a doctorate, number one, but these are just little small things that you have to pay attention to because you got to edit your own work. So you got to remember this. Man, don't just be throwing in semicolons, okay? I don't know what it is. If people don't like commas, they like semicolons. So you use commas, please know there are like 12 or 13 comma rules. There are places for commas, or for semicolons, there are only like 2 rules, okay? All right, so that's the first thing. All right, so you needed an introduction, you needed a thesis statement. Now, the thesis statement is going to guide this paper. What are your points that you're talking about? Right? What were you supposed to be looking at in this paper? Are you looking at how Psalm 30 gives a person the opportunity to have a sensory experience, a mental experience? You know what I mean? What that would have been mentioned in your thesis statement. Then you set your paper up, and then at first body paragraph, you would have said something like, interpreting this psalm narrative of lament, anguish, and praise, one can understand that it allows for sensory expression or sensory experience. That would have been the thesis statement. Okay, you put you throughout this entire paper. That is absolutely incorrect. Academic writing does not allow for you. And when I say you, I'm talking about I. It does not allow for you, we, us, our. It doesn't allow for any of that. This is academic writing. So this paper is not about you, and you put yourself all in the paper. I felt, my, us, I drew. That is not how you write an academic paper. So I want you to throw that out of your vocabulary for writing. Okay. So again, I'm just going to type over here. I'm going to highlight this. Again, this would be based from your thesis statement, but if you wanted to say this interpreting this psalm, which that's called a gerund. So you have int interpreting. That's the gerund form of the word. So who is doing the interpreting? If you can say when looking or when reading this, I wouldn't even say interpreting. Maybe when reading Psalm 30, right? Which is a narrative of one can understand, or one can begin to see that it allows the reader to have a sensory experience, right? Then you would talk about how reading, then you give some examples from the text using sensory. What you did in this first paragraph, body paragraph, was you didn't tell the reader anything, right? You said David's view of reading and rediscovery helps us know us to make room for sensory experience, okay? In the book, getting involved with the Old Testament, you do not need to write down the title of the book. That is what the footnote is for. So then you said she opens her acquisition with a statement that I drew from that said, all of that is irrelevant. You do not put any of this stuff in here. So I really need to underline this too. You would need to delete that, all of this stuff. Then the quote that you use is irrelevant. So you want to make sure to remember a quote is only used to substantiate a point, right? It's only used to substantiate what it is that you're saying, right? This quote does not help your claim at all. You use, her book was devoted to others getting and staying involved with God, what it takes, what it costs, what it looks like, what it feels like, and why anyone would want to do it anyway. Hence is why I deemed it a sensory experience. No. So that entire quote, and I put it over here in the margins for you. I put, where is the end of the quote? First of all, you didn't even give the end of the quote. You cannot put the footnote at the end of the sentence, which is what you did right here. You put the footnote at the end of the sentence. That is incorrect. The footnote must come directly behind the quote. However, you didn't even indicate here where was the end of the quote. Again, this was your first body paragraph, and you were supposed to be talking about sensory. It is weak. You did not talk about sensory of the text. Okay. So you would need to have added more development, and you needed to have added more information based on how this scripture allows for one to have a sensory experience. We're not talking about what she said about the cost and all. No. We're looking at the scripture itself. Tell me, how does this scripture allow you, when I say you, the reader, okay, we're talking about any person in general, the opportunity to have a sensory experience. All right, so then that's that. If you look at, again, your first footnote, it is done incorrectly. I can't add a comment, but your footnote is done incorrectly. So again, you do not need to know how to do this by heart. You have to use your Turabian handbook. That's a part of the requirement for any seminary. I went to 2 seminaries. I got my MDiv. My MDiv was 93 credits, okay? And then I did seminary with the DMIN. So I'm here to tell you, seminary requires that you use Turabian, and you have to buy that little handbook. It doesn't cost that much, but that is your guide. So you need to look at, there's a difference between the bibliographic information on the last page on your bibliography page than how it is written in the footnotes, okay? It's the same information, but it's written differently. That's why one is called a footnote and one is an entry on the bibliography page, okay? So this is incorrect. You also use a different font. So your text of your paper, it looks like Times New Roman, and then your font that you use, again, is Calibri. You can't do that. All right. So this is done incorrectly. You need to go back and review how do you do a footnote using Turabian. All right. Then the next thing you have, so that's what all that is. Then you move in here in the next paragraph. David solidifies her viewpoint. Are we only talking about David, or are we exegeting this text? You have here interpretation of Psalm 30. Then you should be interpreting it. You use Davis as a source. You're not writing about what Davis has written. Does that make sense? I'm trying to look to see if you have responded at all. I don't think so. No. So you cannot use, you're not writing about her book. You are using her book as support. That's the difference. So it's not David solidifies her viewpoint. First of all, you missed the viewpoint. Very sensory. The second thing you have, David solidifies her viewpoint by anchoring that the Old Testament has a key piece of good news that communicates repeatedly. Is this still sensory? Okay, then you have letting us know that God is deeply and irrevocably involved with us. That is a fragment. So that is not even a sentence at all. Once again, you're using first person plural, which is us. You cannot use first person. The only way you can use first person in your writing is if your professor allows you the opportunity to do so. 9.5 times out of 10, you are not allowed to do so. If you were writing a paper about your personal experience, you're a pastor, right? About your own personal experience as a pastor, then you would be given permission to use first person. But because this is not that type of paper, you cannot do that. I'm here to tell you, I'm also a pastor. You can't write like that, okay? So using this viewpoint as a tool in which to excavate, I realized, again, this paper isn't about you. That I was, so all of this is, you got to remember all of this. I was reading with my spirit and emotions. Not so, again, I'm telling you, just for this is my third paragraph looking at it. Already, I don't know what you're talking about. Right? So I don't know what your professor gave you on this paper. He was probably kind. But I'm not your professor. I'm here to help you. Your professor's here to help you too. But I'm trying to help you understand I don't know what you're talking about, because you don't have, there's no organization. A paper has to have organization. The organization in the academic paper comes from the thesis statement. Then from the thesis statement, you have topic sentences, because they come from the, they come from that. So that's the whole thing here. So now the next thing that you have is using this viewpoint as a tool in which to excavate. So again, you would get rid of this. This is personal. It doesn't make sense, right? So I'm just going to put it in red. Then you have, and though I knew. So again, this whole statement here, and I have it highlighted for you. This is a, it's absolutely too conversational. What you have to remember in academic writing, that you cannot begin a sentence with a coordinating conjunction. The coordinating conjunction is what we call the fanboys: for, and, nor, right? But, or, yet, and so. Those are what we call coordinating conjunctions. If you remember from back in the day, a coordinating conjunction joins two things. The coordinating conjunction joins two complete sentences, right? What we call independent clauses. I am tired, comma, so I am going to bed early. Those two sentences are on the same thought, okay? So therefore, I can use a coordinating conjunction. That's what you do here. So you cannot begin a sentence with and though. And that is very conversational. You cannot put it in academic writing. And once again, here you go using I. You use I. You can't do this. You again, this you said to exegete this block of scripture. You're not exegeting. There is a formula for exegeting scripture for academic writing. If you look in the handbook online for St. Mary's, they even give you like an example, a sample of an exegetical paper, right? So this is incorrect. So then you have, I knew I was to exegete box scripture with certain clarity. My conservative engagement, again, none of this fits the paper. You cannot, just remember, the paper is not about you. So from a different perspective, I also thought that, again, you are using your references incorrectly. So this information here is incorrect. So again, I'm gonna right here, per my previous statement, you are using your references incorrectly. Okay. So you're not using them right. All right. Then Wright's view of the Psalms is they are full of power. Again, what are you talking about? You are looking at Psalm 30. You are exegeting it. So you want to say that you want to talk about sensory. What else do you want to talk about? You want to talk about it being expressing passion. Okay, so that's what you want to talk about here. Then I need to see how Psalms 30, not the book of Psalms, but how Psalm 30 is given this passion. Okay, so I don't see it. So Wright's view of the Psalms, that's not what we're doing. And then you have it down here footnoted, but once again, this does not fit the paper. You are talking about Psalm 30, not the book of Psalms. Okay, so his goal for reading, and again, we don't care what, I love N.T. Wright, but we don't care what his goal for reading is. So do you understand that all of this is wrong? So this entire paper, like I'm just going to put it in red, but you would need to rewrite this entire paragraph. It doesn't fit. You are, again, I think really what you're going to have to work on is how to write the paper first and then add the sources in. And then you have, based upon that shaping, That doesn't make sense. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Okay, so I'm going to put unclear. Wright states that the Psalms transforms our way. Once again, you're not talking about the book of Psalms, and you're not summarizing what it is that he is writing. This is incorrect. You're supposed to be exegeting the text. Okay. All right. So again, your footnotes are also wrong again. Okay. So you got to, Isaiah, you have to. So you have space signifies what we are doing here. Matter signifies what we are doing with this body God has given us. Again, I have no idea what it is that you're trying to tell me. Your organization is off. Wright believes that when we merge these elements, again, we're supposed to be talking about Psalm 30. Okay, so none of this fits an exegesis. Okay, so I'm just highlighting. You can see what I'm doing. I am highlighting all of your first persons, but again, none of this fits. You know, I'm just going to say redo this paragraph. It doesn't fit the assignment. Okay. Then you have in my analysis of Psalms 30. Again, you do not say in my analysis. This entire paper is supposed to be your analysis. So I've always had students that say, well, how would you know it's my analysis? You don't want to write in the paper. This is the entire paper is your analysis. So you do not say in my analysis, okay? Do not say Davis and Wright gave me the idea of reading again. It's not about what they are doing. That the you again, you are using the sources incorrectly. You are not writing 2 book reviews. And this is what it appears to me what you're doing. It's like you're writing book reviews. That is not what the assignment is about. It is one thing. In academic writing, you cannot use the word thing. So please remember, what is a thing? So let me write, cannot use thing in academic writing. Okay. You say it is one thing to read scripture just for its literary value, but it's, so here you would need a comma. So remember, need a comma whenever you have 2 independent clauses. This is the rule. Separated with a coordinating conjunction, which is what I mentioned earlier. You have to put a comma before the coordinating conjunction. Okay, and as I mentioned before, therefore, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Okay, and then you use you. You is absolutely never used in academic writing. Never used in academic writing. You points directly to the reader. You are not allowed to ever. You should have never been using you in any of your academic life. Okay. So that is second person, and you cannot use it. Never use second person you. That's what it is. Okay. But it's another when you open your heart. There you go. And again, your paper, your writing is very conversational. And because, you cannot do this. I find intimacy of God in our theological base of the Old Testament. It did inform me. See, the goodness in text is not just the obvious. Again, that's just unclear. Unclear. When you write, you have to write as if the writer does not know anything about your subject. You cannot, I'm just going to write this in the margin. You cannot leave um, gaps in understanding. When you write, you have to make sure that your writing speaks for itself. Okay. Then, for example, in the section of Psalms 30, is it Psalms with an S or is it without it? Moving from praise to anger, the psalmist is praising the Lord for healing and not perishing. Okay, so that's incorrect. Putting the comma here. So do not put, a lot of times what students do is when they see the word and, they make the assumption automatically they need to put a comma. That's why you have to learn the comma rules. You do not put a comma here. Okay, you don't do that. You only put a comma before and is if you had a list. I am going to the store to buy apples, bananas, oranges, comma, and grapes. I am going to the store, comma, and I am going to the laundromat. Those are two complete sentences. You do not put a comma before and when you have what we call a compound subject. You remember that back in the day? Tom and Jerry are friends. You wouldn't say Tom, comma, and Jerry are friends. You would not put it when we have a compound predicate. I am going to buy, and I'm going to look and shop around, whatever. Okay, that's compound predicate, two verbs, and they're joined with and. There is no comma. So just remember that, how you use the comma with and, which looses the tightly wound psalmist to a place of thanksgiving. Okay, so again, you have to make sure that your points, you have to work on organizing your points. Okay, and that's what I'm going to put here. When I use the thoughtful I, so once again, you have all of this that you have to go back and work on. This paper, it's just not about you. Okay. It's not about you. I'm gonna try to highlight all of them for you, but honestly, um, it's the paper's just not about you. So I'm gonna read this to you so you can hear what you wrote. When I use the thoughtful eye of intimacy from the point of correlation with Davis and Wright. Now, where does intimacy come from? You haven't even mentioned this. I saw that joy. I felt that anguish. I felt his thankfulness. I was able to open my spirit up and see the psalm because now you have no S on it. So you got it. What is it, psalm or psalms? Because I had been through the very same thing, no thing, in 2002 when I was in a near fatal accident that left me disabled. Believing the viewpoints now. I don't know what the assignment was. Did he give you the opportunity to write about yourself? I just don't see that. This is supposed to be exegesis. I don't see that being allowed in this assignment. Okay. So I'm going to highlight all of this because once again, this entire paragraph is a personal, this is a personal paragraph. Was it allowed based on based on the assignment? That's my question to you. Other viewpoints that inform my hermeneutical understanding are those. Again, here we go again. You're still talking about self. I'm just, you got me in it. Shaping me as a multicultural. I know that it is like to seek, again, what does this have to do with the text? So I'm just going to put it again in the comment. What does this have to do with the text? The Protestant interpretive perspective informs me, my builder founder. Again, you are completely not on the text. So I'm gonna highlight all of this, being a United Methodist Protestant. I'll need to see the assignment. I just cannot imagine that your professor told you to speak on you and you're supposed to be interpreting a scripture. That's just not how you, that's not how you answer this type of paper. So I'm highlighting it in red, and we're gonna move on. And then Psalm 30 is significant in the life of the Protestant tradition. Again, is that what the assignment is? Is the assignment about you? I just don't see that. You didn't give me the assignment. I don't see this. You did very little talking about the text itself, right? So I don't see that. I don't see how you talking about your traditions and you didn't exegete the text at all. In the matter of context, I believe Psalms are examples transformation. So what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to work on how do you answer questions. And then the bibliography, I can tell you pull this from online. You probably put this in Microsoft Office at the top and you used it. I'm gonna tell you how you came up with this. And you use this from the references from the top from Microsoft Office. The bibliography is always on its own separate page. Number two, it is incorrect. You do not indent the the first line. Your font is off. You do not use color on the paper. So that's one thing about doing this. You still have to have double space in between. So you have Hunter W. Stephen. I guess that's the middle initial. Period. Jones, comma Scott. So you see that's wrong. You have Stephen, comma, right? So you, even if you decide to use, because I know this is what you did, you use Microsoft Office, you still have to check it because Microsoft Office does what it can to help us as students, but is 9 times out of 10 is not going to be all the way correct. It gives you a basis for it, and then you have to take your book and you have to look. For example, Wright for N.T. Wright. For Tarabi, you have to write out the first person's name. And look up N.T. Wright. The case for those Psalms, why they are essentials, why you didn't capitalize R. You use title case when you're doing Arabian, okay? So those are just some of the things that are on here. So as a review for you, what you're gonna have to do is learn how to answer the question. So that's one of the things I always talk to students about. As a professor, I've been a professor since I was 24 years old. As a college professor, and I'm gonna tell you what I tell every last student I've had over all my little years of teaching. I've been teaching over 20 years. And that is, we'll never trick you. Never. What we want from assignment, we're gonna put it in the paper, in the assignment sheet. As a student, it is your job to give us what we've asked for in the assignment sheet. That's how you answer questions, and that's how you do well. So that's the first thing. The second thing you have to do is your organization and your format. You look at the paper, and then from the paper that is given to you as the instruction, what you have to do is you have to, if you need to outline it, outline it, okay? And then what you need to do is you need to have your organization. So I don't know if you need to outline it, so be it. But the organization is introduction. The last sentence is the thesis statement. The first sentence is the topic sentence. It's going to come back to the first point of the thesis statement. So if you're talking about Psalm 30, right? And I'm just going to go to Psalm 30 really fast because I'm almost out of time. But I'm just going to go over here to Psalm 30. And you have to also identify which version of the Bible you are using. So Psalm 30, all right, it has 12. I will exalt you, Lord, for you lifted me out of the depths and did not let my enemies gloat over me. Lord, my God, I call you for help. And you healed me. You, Lord, brought me up from the realm of the dead. You spared me from going down to the pit. Sing the praises of the Lord, you his faithful people. Praise his holy name, for his anger lasts only a moment, but his favor lasts a lifetime. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. I'm using the NIV version. When I felt secure, I said, I will never be shaken. Lord, when you favored me, you made my royal mountain stand firm. But when you hid your face, I was dismayed. To you, Lord, I called. To the Lord, I cried for mercy. What is gain if I'm silenced, if I go down to the pit? Will the dust praise you? Will it proclaim your faithfulness? Your faithfulness. Here, Lord, and be merciful to me. Lord, be my help. Okay, so if you want to say it talks about sensory, okay, so it says about hear, Lord. So I'm asking, David is asking the Lord to hear me. Hear, Lord. So that is a sensory experience. You turn my wailing into dancing. So wailing is also sensory, right? Wailing is crying and coming forth, and then dancing. Dancing is also a sensory experience, right? So if you wanted to do sensory, then you needed to look at the text. And then you use Dr. Davis or whoever it was that you referenced, then you would use that as a means of support. But when you are interpreting text, your job then is to interpret what is it that David is saying here in this psalm. I'll exalt you, Lord, for you lifted me out of the depths. So David is saying, Lord, I'm going to give you all the praise that I can, because when I was at my lowest, right, when I was in a bottomless pit, whether he was in that pit or not, it felt to him like he was in a bottomless pit. Lord, you lifted me out of it. And Lord, I'm exalt you for that. And you did not let my enemies blow over me. So Lord, you know I got all these enemies. They're people who've been trying to kill me. But you, not only did you lift me out of this low place where I was, you didn't let my enemies and my haters get to me. See what I'm saying? So what you're doing is you are interpreting this text. What is the text saying? Not what N.T. Wright is saying or what some quote about the cost of some book or some text. So that's what you have to do. It's just remember that when we ask you to write something, the directions are going to, especially in seminary. I'm here to tell you, seminary, the seminarians are very, very, very good about it. Okay. So what you have to do is just remember that we're going to always give you what you need, and you have to give it back to us. When in doubt, look up the format. How do I write an interpretation of a scripture? How do I exegete a text? I promise you, look at the handbook that we have online, and you also need to you can also Google. There's so many seminaries in the United States, but right here at St. Mary's, there are samples too for you to use. And so I am going to email this to you. Once it downloads, I'm going to also email the paper to you. You can review this, and then we can try to meet again. Again, I only meet on Tuesday nights. I am part-time. I do read papers throughout the week. I have a very, very busy schedule, which is why I waited on you to do this. But I went ahead and I started recording so that I will be finished by 8, because I have a student's paper that I need to look at. So my time on Tuesdays are only from 6 to 8. And I try to get as many students in. I even sometimes will start at 5:30. I have gone to 9 o'clock. But again, like you, I'm also a pastor, but I also have other obligations. So you could not come online tonight. That's fine, but I went ahead and recorded it, so you can still get the information and review it. And then we can try to schedule for another day. Have a blessed night in the Lord. Night you can have the chance to go back and review the video at will. All right. Have a good night.